Hello and welcome to the Grounded Awakening podcast, conversations connecting science and intuition, real life lessons from real people, real professionals who've had experiences that help them awaken to the truth of what they need and what is needed to thrive in their profession. These are conversations to help us evolve and awaken to what we need to be grounded yet spiritually awakened in life, in parenting, in education, in healthcare, and in the way we interact with the world around us. We hope to ripple change through awareness and by helping people connect with their mind, body, spirit, one conscious conversation at a time. I'm your host, Jennifer Wren Tolo, an integrative bridge to health, hope, and healing. I was a critical care nurse whose life path drastically changed when my second son had a massive neonatal stroke at birth, and my third son was diagnosed with cancer. Through this crisis, I learned the power of finding calm in the chaos and understood how calming down and being more present in my life helped to navigate through all of the inevitable stressors and challenges. I learned by caring for myself, I was better able to care for and support my kids so we could both be happier and healthier. Now, I'm a whole health educator and patient advocate. I use science, my nursing knowledge and experiences, along with my intuitive gifts and personal experiences to help bridge the gaps between modern medicine and alternative health, between science and intuition, and between self-care and caring for others. I help overwhelmed mothers and children with invisible disabilities find calm in the chaos of their lives and awaken to hope and resilience so they can take back their power over their own health and well-being. I am the author of Family Fuel, A Busy Mom's Guide to Healthy Living, and a featured author in the Wellness Universe's Complete Guide to Self-Care, Tools for Stress Management. I'm a keynote speaker and an adjunct lecturer at Endicott College, where I teach a course called Holistic and Complementary Approaches to Health and Healing. I offer online courses, workshops, and retreats. I'm a wife, a warrior mom of 4 boys, a Karuna Reiki master, a mindfulness practitioner, an educator, a medical intuitive, and the owner of Butterfly Family Wellness. You can connect with me at www.jenniferwrentolo.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grounded Awakening. I'm your host, Jen Tolo, and I'm really excited to have you here. We are going to have an amazing conversation connecting science and intuition with my friend, Dr. Dolores Fazzino. A little bit about Dolores. We're going to talk today about spirituality and healing. Dolores has a doctorate as a nurse practitioner. She has practiced in OR suites for over 40 years. She is a wealth of information. She is the epitome of grounding herself in science, but opening to intuition and spirit. Dolores is a medical intuitive. She's an energy whisperer, an international Amazon best-selling author. She is about to launch her next book, which is coming this fall, which is called Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible. She has over 40 years of experience in the healthcare industry. She believes in healing that healing is a multi-faceted process. After witnessing the miraculous healing of her father's physical condition as a young adult, Dr. Fazzino has dedicated her life to assisting people to heal in ways they never thought possible. Dr. Dolores takes us beyond the mind-body paradigm to include spirituality in wellness and assisting her clients to unravel the energetic discord in their life. She's known as the energy whisperer. Her gifts and customized programs and strategies assist her clients to move through life's challenges, reconnect with their inner self with grace and ease, creating lasting health and true wellness. I am really excited to have Dolores here. Dolores is going to share a little bit just about what she does, but also she has a program called the Concierge Surgical Coaching Program, which the link is below, where she really implements the concept of spirituality and helps people connect to that spirituality because it is such a key component to health and healing. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Dolores Fazzino. Dun, da, da, da. Hello,
Dun, dun,
Dolores.
dun. Hello, Jen. How are you? So good to
I
see
am
you
well.
again.
So good to see you. our conversations have been so phenomenal in the past. We've done things together. I have even talked to you about coming in and joining my class as I teach a course on health, holistic and complementary approaches to health and healing. And they're on break right now, but when we come back from break, we're talking about spirituality and the importance of spirituality and mindset, the mind-body connection and spirit to healing as the whole process. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
And thank you for having me. I so appreciate the opportunity. And yes, spirituality, I call it the secret sauce that connects the body, mind, and soul together, because
Yes.
without it, we're not who we are. And it's such an important aspect of who we are that I think it's kind of gotten pushed off to the side for many, many, many generations. And I think we're kind of coming to a renaissance and a full circle of embracing that once again.
Absolutely.
Because you know what? We are more than what we could physically see. Right? You and I are this dense, container of energy, because it's vibrating at a lower frequency, but it's just like our thoughts and our beliefs and how we experience things and all the traumas and all the good things that have happened in our lives really comprise of who we truly are in this physical container.
Yeah.
And I think for the longest time, we could both agree on this, is that, in Western medicine, they only look at the physical aspect of a person. It's like the physical aspect is the tip of the iceberg, and what's underneath the surface of that iceberg is the bigger part of the iceberg that really is running the show. And that unconscious part, or underwater, is like we were talking about, our emotions, our thoughts, what we say to ourselves, our self-talk. We all do it. And we're a lot of us are experts at beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
And in more ways than you can imagine. We're kinder to a stranger than to ourselves. It's kind of funny.
Well, it adds to the stress. I mean, I was reading that 65% of illnesses are stress related. And it was interesting because I was teaching to my class, in Eastern philosophy, they believe stress is a lack of inner peace, whereas Western philosophy believes that stress is a loss of control. Now,
that's interesting.
Right? Now, how many of us try to control things that are truly not within our control? And it creates stress. Yeah. And, it was interesting because I was talking to my students about how even if you might possess the BRCA gene or genes that make you predisposed to, let's say, cancers, it is our mindset and our belief and our perception of life that impacts our stress, that impacts whether these genes get turned on or not.
Absolutely true, Jennifer. Absolutely true. Yeah. How many times, and I'm going to segue into a little story here. How many times do we go to the doctors and, they look at our lab results and they totally freak out, and they're projecting their fears and anxieties onto us when, if you have a pretty good relationship with yourself and your body and you're connected to your body, that's their reality, but they're projecting their reality onto you. And if your boundaries aren't strong enough and you're not awake enough to realize what they are doing, automatically you kind of go down that rabbit hole with them, and you might not have that problem, but you're creating it for yourself.
Yeah.
Just not.
Well, it kind of reminds me even of the medical hexing. I remember talking to people about medical hexing. Now, let me just put a little disclaimer out here. Dolores and I are both of the medical profession.
We're Western medicine trained.
Yes, we are Western medicine trained. Dolores works in the operating rooms. You work alongside physicians. You have respect for modern medicine. I have respect for modern medicine, but we also have respect for the fact that we are missing a crucial aspect, which is the spiritual connection, the mind-body connection, the awareness of something more than self. I want to just read, just for people that don't really understand what spirituality is. This is out of Dr. Dossie's and Keegan's Holistic Nursing Handbook, and they talk about spirituality and health in this. And they define spirituality as the essence of our being. It permeates our living in relationships and infuses our unfolding awareness of who we are, our purpose in being, and our inner resources. Spirituality is active and expressive. It shapes and is shaped by our life's journey. Spirituality informs the way we live and experience life, the ways we encounter mystery, and the ways we relate to all aspects of life. Inherent in the human condition, spirituality is expressed and experienced through living our connectedness with the sacred source, the self, others, and nature. Now, I believe religion is a form of spirituality, but I make this clear, at least when I teach it, spirituality and religion are different, in that religion is sort of a doctrine and a set of beliefs that you follow based on a religion, whereas spirituality is more your connection with yourself and your life and the life around you. Would you agree? Or
I agree, and I'm going to add that and hopefully simplify it, because
please?
this is a discussion that really comes up a lot, because people have a tendency to mesh spirituality with being religious.
Mm-hmm.
They're two different concepts.
Right.
And I always share with, my students and my clients is that religion is an outward expression of your spirituality, if you want to call it that. It's
Mm-hmm.
an indoctrinated thing. It's with a group. It's outside of yourself. Whereas
Right.
spirituality is an inside relationship within yourself that you have. So spirituality inside, religious outside.
Yes. Yes. And I always say healing starts inside.
Absolutely. We,
Yes.
we have all we need to heal ourselves.
Absolutely.
We
It's
are
interesting.
we are sovereign beings, and we have that ability to do that.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I started this whole podcast series, The Grounded Awakening, because I am seeing this disconnect with spirituality, and I see how it's impacting people's lives, both my children, my students, my clients. I see this hunger for something more.
Mhm.
And this spinning out of control with all the information and all the outside influences of how we should think, should be, should act, versus the connection to who we are, what we need, and what feels right for us in the moment. So the grounded awakening is the groundedness is that knowledge and that information that informs our inspired action, which comes from that connection to spirit, to source, to the universe, to God, whatever it is you want to call it, but something beyond and bigger than ourselves. So the grounded awakening is all about anchoring and grounding yourself so you can open to the information that's coming through authentically to you and connecting you to your soul and spirit needs.
I agree with you 100%, Jen.
Yeah.
And, the other thing that kind of comes up with this, and I had this huge aha moment this morning where, I've been, being in healthcare for well over 40 years, and, actually being in the hospital as an assistant surgeon, and also doing my own coaching practice and stuff. I've witnessed the default of critical thinking in our
Mm-hmm.
profession. And critical thinking is so related to what you just shared,
Yes.
because when you are connected to yourself, you get these what I call divine downloads. And it's just like, you're presented with these facts, and you kind of go within and you say something's off here, and I think maybe we should check this out a different way. Call it, your God spark, your intuition, your inner wisdom. It's all the same thing. It's spirituality, really.
Yes.
And I see it missing so much in our healthcare system. And I'm not here to bash anything. It's just an observation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
think many people have observed this. That's why there's such an increase
yeah.
in desire for complementary and alternative medicine. I just read there's going to be, that is like sort of the wave of the future. There are more and more people looking to complementary and alternative medicine because modern medicine isn't necessarily making them feel like heard, seen, better, It's not giving them the answers, because a lot of times, to your point, it's about your interconnection with yourself. It's about your understanding and awareness of yourself and your needs. And sometimes we look to other people to fix us without taking accountability for our own contribution to our dis-ease.
I agree. And, we call that the bypass
Yeah.
because it's like a lot of times, and, just I want to back up a little bit because, I took some coursework probably about 10, 12 years ago. And in that coursework, it was like a coursework on mindfulness. And they showed us an example of what modern medicine is right now. So imagine a pie, okay? And in the center is the pie hole. And the traditional medical model is the pie hole is drugs, surgery, and a procedure. And on the periphery of that pie hole, or on the periphery of that pie, are all the complementary and alternatives. So in between, like the pie hole and the edge of the pie, are all the diagnostic testings.
Yes.
So now what we want to see, and what they showed, and I thought this was brilliant, is like imagine a pie, and then you have a pie hole in the middle, and that's health and wellness. And divide that pie into equal slices all the way around. It has every different alternative, complementary, integrative modality, inclusive of Western medicine. So Jen, what might work for you for a problem is like maybe a little bit of Western medicine, acupuncture, and maybe some herbal remedies. For me, for the same thing, it might be something else. So it takes into consideration that, number one, everybody is uniquely different. Number two, that when each one of those slices are important by themselves, but when you start combining things, it's very synergistic.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I know that with my son, when my son had leukemia, I did Reiki on him every single day at the bedside. And he was getting the chemotherapy. He was getting all of the modern medicine. That's what saved his life. But what helped clear the negative effects of the chemotherapy was the energy medicine, the Reiki, the guided meditation, the visualization. And I was really very emphatic about wanting positivity around me. I made sure that any discussions I had with friends and family were positive, were hopeful. And all of that really, I felt like, made a difference in not just my son's healing, but in my family's health and well-being.
Well,
I mean, he never had the mouth sores or any of the bad side effects of chemotherapy. And I really believe it's because of the Reiki. But I did that, and then I had to teach the nurses how to do that.
Well, there you go. But also, I mean, what a journey you've had too. Your own personal story, it's huge. And it's a testimonial that this does work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a testimonial.
And hope and positivity. I was, just doing a little bit of research, and some of the things that spirituality helps with is, coping with adversity. It's positive emotions, the hope, the optimism, happiness, purpose, well-being, mental health. All of this is part of spirituality and happens when you connect to that spirituality, the greater purpose of whatever it is that you're facing, and the hope that things are going to get better, right? The positivity and the optimism. So I'd love for you to share with us, if you will, about what you've seen and what kind of made you start your Concierge Surgical Coaching Program, what you've seen as far as spirituality and health in the operating room. Like, what has been your experience? Yeah.
Well, being in the surgical realm as an assistant for, decades now, I've always seen patients, we call them frequent flyers. They're here for one procedure and then they come back for another and another. And, mostly, people who are oncology patients, you have a cancer and, we cut it out and you get your chemo radiation. And why is it like 18 months, 2 years later, they're back with another manifestation of the cancer. And it used to put me in a conundrum, because it was just like, what are we missing here? And, through time and space and experience, I realized that, in my studies, that of course we're only addressing the physical. We're never looking at the emotional stuff, the mental and the spiritual. Emotional is like how you cope with things. Mental is, their self-talk and what you say to yourself, and, how positive or negative you are. And then lastly, if they're connected to their body or into their intuition, because those are three aspects that kind of are the driving force that runs the show. And, we have to understand that everything is energy. Okay. Our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions. If we don't experience our emotions, or we kind of partially experience our emotions, that energy never gets experienced, dissipated, transformed, and transmuted and transcended. It just stays stuck. So it has to go someplace, because your energy field gets congested with all this, and eventually the tipping point is that it will go into your body and go to the weakest link in your body to create something. And that's the simplest version that I could give you. Now, with that being said, so how would you best support somebody? And I found that, what happens if we start addressing the issues underneath in tandem to them going through their cancer surgery or the chemo and the radiation? And so I kind of formulated this program where, since time is no longer linear, and I know this is going to be an abstract concept for some people, but everything is actually happening at the same time. Past, present, and future are all happening simultaneously. So what you do in this current moment actually has a tendency to heal the past, but also create the future. And just imagine it as a figure of 8. Okay. So when we are working with a patient, when the Concierge Surgical Coaching Program came out of this, is I work with a patient and I find out what's kind of been going on with them. Maybe we know in cancer surgery, usually there's been a major stressor anywhere from like a year to 2 years before the actual diagnosis of cancer. This is a known fact. We know this is true. Because there was a stressor and there was a trigger, and then, months later, there might have been a death, or there might have been some big trauma, or even a happy trauma too. I mean, it's all stress. And so what we found was that, there's some issue going on, and it might have been how they were coping with things. So we kind of look at also how they deal with stress, how they deal with their emotions. If they're the type of person that doesn't express themselves but stuffs it all in, we look at that too. But also, if they have a relationship with their body, because, so many of us, guilty earlier in my my life, it's just like we always look to the external for our validation.
Yes.
And our answers.
Yes.
And, the unfortunate part is that, and we're looking on the outside for that love and appreciation.
Yes. And safety and security.
Yeah. Newsflash, everybody. Guess what? The longest relationship you're ever going to have in your life, guess what, is the one you have with yourself. It's going to outlive any type of love relationship, professional relationship. It's
True.
you, honey. You got to have,
true. Exactly.
you have to have that
Love
relationship.
the one you're with.
Exactly. So, it's like teaching people how to have a relationship with themselves, take their power back. Because a lot of us give our power away to something outside of ourselves.
Yes.
We are so easily distracted.
Yes. Yes.
To, avoid going in here, because, some people will say, and, I had to laugh. This pandemic was a mixed bag. And I look at it from the blessing standpoint, because it gave humanity the opportunity to get off the treadmill and actually maybe even have a relationship with themselves, because they had been distracted so much in their lives, where, we had the great standstill. We were on house arrest basically for 2 weeks straight. And everybody was freaking out because, oh my God, I have to be by myself now. What am I going to do?
Yeah, they had to sit in their